Jean-Claude Van Damme once lived a life so extreme that it nearly cost him everything. At the height of his fame, he was burning through a shocking $10,000 worth of cocaine every single week. His drug habit became so overwhelming that directors were forced to hire handlers just to locate him on set. He would vanish for days at a time, miss entire shoots, and when he did appear, he often showed up hallucinating. The relentless cycle of substance abuse destroyed what had once been a $100 million career. Yet, as shocking as this downfall was, it wasn't even his darkest secret. In 1998, at one of his lowest points, he attempted suicide. Soon after, doctors diagnosed him with rapid cycling bipolar disorder. For a brief period, he believed that once he got clean, his struggles were finally behind him. But years later, in April 2025, Romanian prosecutors accused him of trafficking, an allegation so serious it threatened to erase whatever redemption he had fought for. Jean-Claude Van Damme's story began long before the fame, scandals, and accusations. He was born on October 18, 1960, in a small area of Brussels called Berchem-Sanctegath. His full name at birth was Jean-Claude Camille Francois van Varenberg, a name that carried both French and Flemish heritage. His father, Eugene, worked as both an accountant and a florist, while his mother, Eliana, came from Flemish roots and spoke Dutch. His father spoke French, making their home bilingual, a detail that would later serve Jean-Claude well when he stepped onto the global stage. He grew up alongside his sister, Veronique, in a quiet, working-class neighborhood where discipline and hard work were family values. From an early age, Jean-Claude's father noticed that his son was frail, shy, and painfully introverted. School was no escape. Jean-Claude struggled academically, wore thick glasses, and carried a small, fragile frame that made him a constant target for bullies. They mocked him cruelly, calling him brains in a sarcastic way. Unlike other boys, he wasn't drawn to sports. Instead, he found comfort in comic books and quiet hobbies. Later, he admitted that growing up was very difficult, and he often felt weak and defenseless. His father knew something had to change. At the age of 11, Jean-Claude began lifting weights, determined to build his body into something that could no longer be pushed around. This decision marked a turning point. The gym became his sanctuary, and he trained relentlessly day after day, vowing never again to feel powerless. A year later, at age 12, his father enrolled him in karate classes at the Centre National de Karate in Excels. There he trained under a tough and demanding coach named Claude Getz. From 1972 to 1976, Jean-Claude dedicated himself to daily training. The sessions were brutal. His nose was broken multiple times during sparring, but he refused to quit. Through discipline, sharp kicking techniques, and remarkable flexibility, he transformed himself. By 1976, at just 16 years old, he earned a spot on Belgium's national karate team, a monumental achievement for the boy who had once been bullied for weakness. But karate wasn't his only secret pursuit. Around the same time, Jean-Claude quietly began taking ballet lessons, a decision that shocked even him. From age 16 to 21, he practiced ballet 5 days a week. He later admitted that ballet was the hardest training he had ever done, far tougher than martial arts. Ballet sharpened his balance, grace, and body control, skills that later made his kicks picture-perfect on the big screen. He never told his karate friends, fearing they would mock him, but it was ballet that gave him the ability to perform his iconic splits, a trademark move audiences around the world would never forget. Jean-Claude's first real karate match came in 1975, when he was just 15 years old. Between 1976 and 1980, he built a semi-contact record of 44 wins and only 4 losses. In one early fight in Brussels, he was nearly knocked out by a roundhouse kick. But moments later, he retaliated with a devastating strike that dropped his opponent cold. It was a defining moment that proved just how tough he had become. In December 1979, he helped Belgium's karate team win a major European tournament in Brussels. Then, on March 8, 1980, he faced his greatest challenge yet, Patrick Teugels, a fighter who had already beaten him twice. During the fight, Jean-Claude broke his own hand but refused to quit. He pressed on and delivered a nose-crushing kick that forced Teugles to withdraw. EARNING, Jean-Claude, a victory by TKO. The match required surgery on his hand and forced him into recovery for months. But it sealed his reputation as a fighter with the heart of a champion at just 19 years old. 1979. Jean-Claude Van Damme won the European Professional Karate Association's middleweight championship. He achieved 18 knockouts with only one loss in full-contact fights. While some critics suggested that his record may have been padded with weaker opponents, most agreed that his power, skill, and determination were undeniable. By the age of 20, he had even opened his own gym in Brussels. It's called California Gym. Located right next to a cemetery, the gym barely earned enough to survive. Jean-Claude scraped by delivering pizzas, laying carpets, and modeling for muscle magazines. Often he slept in the gym to avoid rent, survived on restaurant leftovers, and sometimes stole food just to eat. This desperate lifestyle lasted for nearly 2 years, all while he dreamed of reaching America. Finally, in 1982, at the age of 21, he made the leap and traveled to Los Angeles. Stories vary about how much money he carried. Some say just $50. Others claim it was closer to $2,000 or even $5,000, but the truth remained. He arrived with no English skills, no acting experience, and no connections. He lived in his car near Venice Beach, showered in public restrooms, and took whatever odd jobs he could find, cleaning apartments, waiting tables, delivering pizzas, and even working as a limo driver. That job introduced him to Chuck Norris, who later gave him his first break as a stuntman. His first on-screen appearance came in 1984's Break-In, though it was nothing more than a few seconds of dancing in the background. The role was uncredited, but it was a start. Around this time, he worked as a bouncer at a bar owned by Chuck Norris, scraping by and sometimes eating out of trash cans just to stay alive. Still, he never stopped training and auditioning. Eventually, he became a sparring partner for Chuck Norris, which gave him even more exposure. In 1986, he finally landed a small but memorable role as a villain in No Retreat, No Surrender. Paid just $250, he played a brutal Russian fighter, so committed to realism that he often hit his co-stars for real during filming. That same year, he made the boldest move of his career. While working at a restaurant, he spotted producer Menahem Golan dining there. Jean-Claude approached him, and while holding a bowl of soup, executed a flawless roundhouse kick. Golan was so impressed that he invited him to audition. The very next week, Jean-Claude waited all day at Canon Films' office. When Golan finally called him in, Jean-Claude ripped off his shirt and performed high kicks over the producer's head. Golan was stunned and handed him a script for a movie called Bloodsport. Filmed on a modest budget of just $1.50 to $2.3 million, Bloodsport was a dangerous production. Van Damme performed all of his own stunts without safety gear, executing his iconic splits and bone-crunching kicks with real risk. Initially, the film was delayed and nearly went straight to video. But Jean-Claude convinced Golan to let him re-edit the fight scenes himself, working tirelessly for weeks. When Bloodsport finally released in 1988, it shocked everyone by earning $50 million worldwide. Of course, not every Hollywood story went smoothly. In 1987, Van Damme auditioned for Predator and was hired to wear the alien costume, which cost $20,000. The experience was miserable. The suit made him claustrophobic, and he passed out twice. When producers threatened to fire him if it happened again, he snapped, ripped off the expensive headpiece, and smashed it. He was fired on the spot and replaced by 7-foot-tall actor Kevin Peter Hall. But setbacks didn't stop his rise. In 1989, kickboxer turned Jean-Claude Van Damme into a true international star. Released on September 8th, it earned $50 million despite a modest $2.7 million budget. Filmed in Thailand, the movie showcased real Muay Thai training and introduced the fighting style to global audiences. The unforgettable scene where Van Damme drunkenly dances in a Bangkok bar before launching into a brutal fight became one of the most iconic moments of his career. That same year, he starred in Cyborg, a low-budget sci-fi film shot in just 23 days. Despite production chaos and a serious on-set accident where he accidentally blinded fellow actor Jackson Rock Pinkney with a prop knife, leading to a $485,000 lawsuit. The film grossed over $10 million and spawned a new cyberpunk series by 1990. Van Damme began showing emotional depth on screen. In Lionheart, released as a Wall in the UK and Wrong Bet in Australia, he played Lion Gaultier, a soldier who deserts the French Foreign Legion to fight in brutal underground matches to support his late brother's family. The role, filled with gritty fights and heartfelt moments, proved he could act and not just fight. Later that year, he starred in Death Warrant, playing an undercover cop in prison. It grossed $46 million on a $6 million budget. Though production was slowed because Van Damme constantly reworked fight scenes to include his signature spinning kicks. Then came Double Impact in 1991, where Van Damme pushed himself further by playing twin brothers with opposite personalities. The technical challenges of shooting with split screens and body doubles proved his acting versatility. By 1992, he had reached blockbuster status with Universal Soldier, a $23 million project that grossed $120 million worldwide. Yet, behind the scenes, fame was changing him. Reports spread of inflated egos, extravagant demands, and tensions with co-stars, especially with Dolph Lundgren, whom he nearly fought in real life at Cannes. At that moment, Jean-Claude Van Damme was no longer just an action star. He was a global phenomenon, yet his personal demons were already threatening to bring it all crashing down. In 1993, Jean-Claude Van Damme joined forces with legendary Hong Kong director John Woo to film Hard Target, a gritty action thriller shot deep in the Louisiana swamps. Known for pushing himself beyond limits, Van Damme insisted on performing his own dangerous stunts. During one intense sequence involving a horse kick, he came dangerously close to shattering his leg. Universal Studios grew so uneasy with Woo's unrestrained directing style that they actually sent director Sam Raimi to babysit the production. Despite all the tension, the shoot wrapped after 65 grueling days. Woo later admitted he was amazed by Van Damme's fearlessness and his willingness to put his body on the line for dangerous action scenes. The following year, in 1994, Van Damme scored the biggest box office success of his career with Time Cop, the sci-fi thriller in which he played a police officer traveling through time, grossed an impressive $101.6 million against a $28 million budget. Van Damme made sure the script included extra sequences to showcase his trademark moves, including his iconic splits. One unforgettable scene had him jumping into a split on a kitchen counter to avoid being electrocuted, a moment that became instantly recognizable worldwide. He even pushed for moments that highlighted his physique, especially his backside, something he was unabashedly proud of. For the role, he pocketed $3 million. While critics pointed out plot holes in the film, fans embraced the action-packed time travel adventure. However, things quickly began to spiral out of control. Later that same year, Van Damme was cast in Street Fighter, a project plagued with chaos behind the scenes. By then, his cocaine addiction was consuming him, costing him roughly $10,000 a week. Director Steven D'Souza recalled that Van Damme often showed up high and would vanish for hours during filming. At one point, the production had to hire a wrangler just to keep tabs on him. Adding fuel to the fire, Van Damme began an affair with pop star Kylie Minogue while filming in Thailand. Despite his wife Darcy Lapierre being pregnant at the time, he would only admit to the affair years later in 2012. On top of that, demanded private jets and separate hotel accommodations. Yet, even with all the chaos, he still managed to deliver a passable performance by 1995. Van Damme's paycheck skyrocketed to $5 million when he starred in Sudden Death. He played a fire marshal racing to save lives during a terrorist takeover at the Stanley Cup Finals in Pittsburgh. The film was shot at the actual Civic Arena with NHL stars like Luc Robitaille making cameos. One of the most talked about scenes featured Van Damme fighting the team's mascot Iceberg in a kitchen brawl. He even performed a zipline stunt from the arena's roof, though many found the sequence so over the top that it was mocked. Despite a $35 million budget, the movie underperformed in the US. grossing only $20.4 million, but managed to scrape together $64 million worldwide. Van Damme made his directorial debut in 1996 with The Quest, a martial arts epic set in 1925 Tibet. The film featured real fighters from 16 countries, competing for a golden dragon statue. But behind the camera, Van Damme's drug addiction continued. Still spending $10,000 a week on cocaine, he frequently called in sick, leaving production stalled. A studio-appointed handler, instead of helping, made matters worse by enabling his bad habits. At one point, Van Damme disappeared to Hong Kong and returned late, missing entire days of filming. Despite all the setbacks, the $35 million movie performed decently overseas. That same year, he starred in Maximum Risk, once again playing dual roles as twin brothers, one murdered by the Russian mafia, the other out for vengeance. The movie featured dangerous car chases filmed with minimal special effects. In fact, one stunt double was badly injured in a crash. While Van Damme insisted on realism, critics pointed out that many of the riskiest stunts weren't actually him. Still, the film attracted attention for its daring sequences, including a Tao-lonely fight scene. Made on a $15 million budget, the production stretched resources thin. By 1997, Van Damme's personal struggles began to overshadow his career. He starred in Double Team alongside NBA star Dennis Rodman. With his bipolar disorder still undiagnosed, Van Damme's behavior grew erratic, winging from manic highs to crushing lows in the same day. Director Tsui Hark often had to rewrite scenes on the spot to accommodate his unpredictable moods. Ironically, Rodman, who had zero acting experience, ended up being the more stable presence on set. With a $30 million budget, the film limped across the finish line, focusing less on the story and more on simply completing production. The following year, he returned with Knockoff, a bizarre action thriller about counterfeit jeans rigged with explosives. Once again directed by Tsui Hark, the film was plagued by Van Damme's instability. In 1998, he was finally diagnosed with bipolar disorder, but filming was already chaotic. He sang Hong Kong pop songs on set, acted erratically, and frequently halted production while trying to juggle rehab. The wild, nonsensical story about fashion terrorism eerily mirrored his own chaotic life. Also in 1998 came Legionnaire, a film inspired by Van Damme's longtime dream of joining the French Foreign Legion, but any pride he might have felt was quickly overshadowed by scandal. That February, in New York City, he got into a notorious altercation at Scores, a Manhattan strip club. After insulting Chuck Zedua, feared former Hell's Angel and boxer Van Damme was brutally beaten in front of stunned onlookers. The humiliation was compounded when Legionnaire flopped at the box office. Ironically, just a few years earlier, Van Damme had been offered the deal of a lifetime. In 1995, Universal Pictures proposed a $36 million contract for a trilogy, $12 million per film after the massive success of Time Cop, but Van Damme, intoxicated by his own ego, turned it down, demanding $20 million per picture, the same as Jim Carrey. He bragged, "Everything I touch turns into money." On the other end of the phone, studio executives laughed and hung up. That single phone call effectively ended his career as an A-list star by the mid-1990s. His cocaine addiction was spiraling. At one point, he was using 10 grams a day, burning through over $500,000 a year. He regularly missed shooting days, and his handler often enabled the problem instead of fixing it, bringing champagne to the set and partying with him. By the time Double Team was in production, Van Damme was hallucinating and checked into rehab only to walk out after 7 days. Hollywood insiders cruelly nicknamed him Jean-Claude Van Desperate. In 1998, after a failed suicide attempt, doctors officially diagnosed him with rapid cycling bipolar disorder. His years of extreme highs and lows finally had an explanation. During his manic phases, he was fiercely creative, but also aggressive, lashing out at colleagues, demanding outrageous salaries, and numbing himself with drugs. His wife, Gladys Portugues, endured the chaos at home. Eventually, medications stabilized him, and in 2007, he openly discussed his diagnosis on Oprah, but by then, his once shining career was in tatters, Meanwhile, his off-screen scandals kept surfacing. During Street Fighter in 1994, Van Damme had his infamous affair with Kylie Minogue while married to Darcy Lapierre. Nearly 2 decades later, he admitted it, calling it sweet kissing and beautiful lovemaking. The timing, either during his engagement or just after marriage, fueled public outrage and contributed to their 1999 divorce. Then came the night that truly shattered his action hero image. On February 5, 1998, at Score's strip club, Van Damme insulted Chuck Zito again. Zito approached his table and asked if he had really said it. When Van Damme confirmed, Zito unleashed a brutal right-left combination that knocked him out cold. As Van Damme lay unconscious, Zito shouted, "This ain't the movies. This is the street, and I own the street." The story exploded in newspapers, demolishing Van Damme's reputation as a tough guy. By 1999, his career had collapsed completely. Films like Desert Heat went straight to video. His box office reputation was gone, replaced by a direct-to-DVD label. That same year, Universal Soldier: The Return flopped spectacularly, earning just $10.7 million on a $45 million budget. Compared to the original, which had grossed $95 million, the sequel made a mere 11%. His action star crown was officially lost. In 2008, Van Damme tried to reinvent himself with JCVD, a raw metadrama in which he played a fictionalized version of himself, caught in a robbery while battling custody battles and financial ruin. One unforgettable 8-minute monologue saw him break down in tears. Confessing to his addictions, broken marriages, and failed career, critics praised his honesty. But audiences felt uncomfortable seeing their action hero so vulnerable, and the movie bombed commercially.